Hello again, I'm Coyote Jack, and oh man, so what we have said that optimization is important, and also when considering that also without optimizations, also with graphics, actually can perform very well. And you have this headline: former ID software artist asks performance and optimization are as much of an art problem as a tech one. Killzone 2 looks incredible today. Fear looks incredible today. And yes, Killzone 2, man. And I'm one of those that when I used to like Sony, Killzone 2 was pretty good to me. And I really did enjoy the gameplay and really enjoyed the content. And it was looking very, very amazing. It was something that was okay. So even if considering how Killzone 2, yeah, it was filled with controversy because Sony put in a downgrade. It's still even among what that downgrade, the game looked good, and it is. And all of other games, even the original Gears of War game, because also that Gears of War in specific, they have demastered many, many times, adding shitloads of gigabytes to quote unquote perform the graphics look better. But the performance sucks ass, and even the graphics are pointed out, hey, you took away the greedy effect, the green aspect of the game. Gears of War 2 and 3 still look way, way, way too good for being an Unreal Engine 3 game. Many other games look really, really good to what is should be like current day modern gaming standards, but we have seen how they have dropped the ball is in optimizations and art. So yeah, you have two problems that also the optimization is attached there. In fact, why don't we point out how SNK games were were using 80s hardwares until 2004? All the pixels on Metal Slug, all the pixels on KOF from the Orochi saga to 99 and 2000. And I consider that I'm mentioning those because yeah, there was kind of a downgrade in the scenarios because while that company was passing through a bankruptcy stage, but still they were using an 80s hardware and they improved that optimization of that hardware. So yes, and also they managed to pull good pixel art there. So let's read this one. So the fact lead Emmanuel Palik thinks leaning into this mindset from early development will lead the game optimized as well as pretty. Yes, absolutely yes. I recently sat down with the Fed game director and former ID software artist Emmanuel Palalik, as well as composer Mick Gordon, to discuss the upcoming Cyberpunk FPS. On one topic, I wanted to get their thoughts on what was optimization. The effect looks like a heavy gain, but has surprisingly lenient specs. RTX 2060 minimum and no mandatory ray tracing like we are starting to see in some games. Yeah, because all of that shit about ray tracing and yeah, auto subscales, it was. I keep saying that those graphics cards, why do you need an over expensive one each fucking year? At this point, would you need a NASA PC if those games are still going to run like us? And they are heavily relying on, oh, well, we're using that technology while they are not putting that effort into optimization. If they were putting effort into optimizations, they wouldn't even rely on that technology. It was an excuse to make AAA slot being developed faster, while also they were using that as an excuse to sell newer graphics cards like they were the next FIFA, which is what Nvidia doubled down and that's why they are now doubling down on AI even further, primarily because yeah they ignored gamers and they also helped a lot in this mess. But let's continue. The graphics arms race is proving even more costly for devs and players with diminishing returns. The current edge Metal Gear Solid Delta left me feeling cold, especially compared to the similarly photorealistic, yet more vibrant striking, and 10 years older Parton Pain. Meanwhile, people champions like Arc Riders and Battlefield 6 are scoring points with players by not just running on lower end hardware but looking and performing well. First of all, Metal Gear Solid Delta is made in Unreal Engine 5 and you need 100 gigabytes when the original was made in the fucking Fox engine and run it on a PS2. Not only the original, but the substance ones that had a lot of improvements. And the Phantom Pain, you don't need an RTX to run that game. And it looks pretty good because of that engine. Which, yeah, Konami said fuck this because also they spent too much money on it. And they fired everyone that could potentially take most of the benefits with that. And you see Arc Riders and Battlefield 6. Well, prioritizing low spec hardware is going to assure you in more sales because not many one are willing to pay for fucking brand new car levels of a gaming PC. Like they don't want to pay for the price of a brand new car for a PC just to play AAA slap and still cannot run. We had examples like Boomerlands 4. And I would rather play nowadays the already artistic style games like anime than the modern realism shit because even we have seen how that one also deteriorates over the course of time. I mean, not for Gears of War at least, but because they also relied so well with artistic design. But we cannot say the same for the other games that relies more on the technology. That's why I keep saying with Unreal Engine 5, and Arc Writers prove it. They prove it to us that it is depending on the developer who actually codes on that engine to actually make shit work and look fine and still be optimized. But also what Unreal Engine 5 does is that since they want to make those favoritisms to AAA slot, they insert tools that don't rely at all on optimization. Or say, oh, you can use ray tracing and that's it. And they use that one without actually thinking, okay, if this one runs fine on those low end PCs, we don't give a fuck. And you see the fucking result of that. To continue on, this isn't just a question of tech and optimizations. According to Palarik, good performance in a game isn't always a technical problem. It's much of an art problem as well, because also they have put a lot of artistic slop that nowadays we're just seeing, oh yeah, another Unreal Engine 5 filled with DEI and looks like the same one that we saw the last one month, the last week, or well, the last year, the last fucking 5 years. Yeah, they double down too much on poorly optimization, and there's the consequences. We are seeing it. Oh man, he told me a really strong art can work within any shading and rendering limitations that are present and lean into those. Yes, that's absolutely true. So even if that artistic style is already optimized, go fucking for it. Do good stuff there. And if you're making something that outstands among all of those games out there in the market, you are giving the recipe of good success. Well, we have seen how much effort put in the artistic style and the optimizations department. Ah man, so I really we read that. When you look at older games, Killzone 2 looks incredible today and Fear looks incredible today, man. Yes. A lot of that is because as an artist, you are working within whatever limitations are presented in front of you. That's absolutely true. and being able to lean into those strengths, that's how we are looking at optimizations for the fact. While it looks fancy, there is definitely a lot of stuff that we are doing. There is some old school techniques mixed in there. And the sad part in all of that is we have seen how a lot of attention to details, mechanics. Hell, the latest one trending on the last month was Star Wars The Force Unleashed 1 and 2 because that one had their own engine made by EA and it was looking pretty fine and especially with attention to the destruction, it felt so natural. Trees and buildings being destroyed by Darth Vader. Yes, it were looking pretty good, and it was an optimized game that run it on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. And also, you had other games like Guerrilla Faction. That game also had a lot of destruction, and it looked pretty astonishing. And running on low memory RAM, and in racing games, the original race driver grid. That shit was made to run on PCs even from with Windows 98. They optimized that shit impressively to the point that even you could see the attention to detail, like changing gears and seeing all the deformation of the cars at almost say 60 FPS. You're not seeing any of that shit when they said, oh well, speeding up development. And that's also I keep saying about indie developers. It's important for them to also get paid attention to this because if you're making something, look, if you're even making something indie that actually runs in on low NPCs, but you're telling me I require an SSD, honestly, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself because you are doing this damage to yourself. And many others, even that rely on pixel art, but you need an SSD, stupid. KOF 13 run it just fine on a hard drive and is pretty good looking. Or Blast Blue to Central Fiction. You have many examples. And they are all of those have a lot of old school techniques to actually make that optimization along feel with the gameplay feel smoothly fine. So look at this. That really struck me, not just as a fan of throwback indie graphics, but also as someone who suffered through a lot of Nintendo Switch ports. Ah yeah, it wasn't just a bad frame rate at low resolutions. That certainly didn't help. But games like Other Worlds had to strip away so much in detail that developers simply assumed players would see. Ah man, they stripped something that they were seeing. In my experience, condensing and wanting high fidelity are in this way always results in a worse looking game than something retro, well intentional, while ludicrous GPU prices and no longer lifespans for core components seems to be hating the issue. Yes, because we are seeing how the memory run is skyrocketing even on where I live. I was looking at the price and I was just like, holy shit! So I cannot get another new computer with those prices on the memory RAM because right now with the AI bubble, now they are relying on those, which is insane. But hey, since the people cannot buy new memory RAM, looks like they have to optimize your fucking shit. So if you want to make money, which is that's a good mindset. Hey, and we need to optimize this because the accessibility we want is based on the hardware of the end user because we don't want them to feel left out or losing a sale because we made a fool of ourselves not optimizing. This is a mindset that really needs to come back because optimization actually proved how much attention to detail even the talent of those developers can shine in. Palalik says that Tin at Empty Vessels is quote unquote making an active effort to ensure its art assets still look good and perform well at lower settings. One sample he gave was how the effect is wheels scale, gun smoke, and bullet impacts are different graphical settings. Checking in on changes when the team plays tests the effects Lares bullies 3 times a week. A particular exciting feature that they are grappling with is environmental destructions a la Battlefield or Rainbow Six Siege. We are working on the persistent destruction on persistent debris. These are a lot more work to be done on that, say Palalik. But being able to turn those switches off and some optimizations we made to get some of this stuff running at 60 FPS has allowed us to take interesting cuts on the lower to mid specs things as well. I think another thing that helps is the flex grifty moody lighting. There's some more dimly light spaces. And these also, those techniques should be preserved, documented and preserved. We are doing a lot of fun stuff there to reduce to a lot of distractions, to make it a little more optimal, whether it is uploading things from the CPU and putting them onto GPU or vice versa. Hey, everyone remembers Battlefield Bad Company 2? That game even people, I enjoy more Battlefield 3 because that was the one I played the most. But when older Battlefield veterans start already say enough is enough with this company, they say did the comparisons. Man, I'm just sticking to Battlefield Bad Company too, because that one you can decimate an entire building to ashes and still playing on the online. I hope that one gets a comeback, but for other alternatives. To continue on, scaling them down to much simpler versions those effects and on the lower settings, and even scaling down things like persistent bodies in the world. While Mick Gordon's expertise in music, he's also a 20-year-old veteran of the games industry and chiming in with final endorsements on Palalik and the team's expertise on the graphics fronts. Well, Mick Gordon's know well about the artistic style aspect because before everyone drooling for him over Doom Eternal, he used to do the chase music in Need for Speed Most Wanted and the battle canyons in Need for Speed Carbon. If you haven't heard those, man, well, that's were the glorious days for me with Mick Gordon compared to the newer stuff. So let's continue. Emmanuel can be quite modest, so I'll jump in and say it. The folks behind these things are also the same folks that have been behind some of the most optimized games from the last 10 years as well, said Gordon. Until they are already retiring and they don't let any of those techniques. It would be sad, a tragedy to humanity. It's a strong consideration from everybody right from the beginning, and these folks are some of the best around at that specifically. So yeah, I hope those optimization techniques can be preserved, documented, so other developers can actually use them. Because holy fuck, man, why would you need a fucking almost 5,000 gaming PC to run AAA slot and that shit still crashing at every hour? Yeah, and optimized games, I love feel like with artistic style is going to age well, very well, or in fact not age at all, and feel actually good to play, even for newer generations. Just saying. That said, thanks for watching, and please take care.